Hi folks, welcome to my Pit Retro Journal. Today I'm going to be working with my Amiga, and this is the month of May where we celebrate all things Amiga via hashtag Amiga. What I want to do today is I want to compare the Amiga's multitasking graphical environment called Workbench with its exec kernel to Linux. And I have this relatively old Lenovo, I think it's either 1 or 2 gigabytes of memory. And it's running Mint, I think is the version of Linux, so latest version of Linux. It actually runs pretty well on here. And I want to compare these two. And just a simple thing, I'm going to write a very simple program that's just a while loop that does nothing. And I want to see how many of these I can run on this machine versus the Lenovo. And I'll also throw the QL in just to show you how an apples to apples comparison goes with regard to the same task. But yeah, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start with the Lenovo, and then I'll transition to the Amiga, and then the QL. I'm not going to run any additional software. I've already last year showed the executive suite, which is a really nice suite that gives you sort of a Linux-like job environment. So I'm just going to use the bare bones shell and kernel for this today, and with Linux the same thing. And the QL the same thing. All right, so let me set up the Lenovo and we'll start with that. All right, I'm here on my Lenovo laptop running a version of Linux. And so let me just give you some information on that. It's Linux Mint 21.3 Cinnamon. So that means it's 4 years old or 3.5 years old. And it's a Core i3 with 4 gigabytes of memory. So I guess I think it came with one, and I had a 4 gigabyte stick. But first thing I want to do is I'm going to open up my shell, and I'm just going to use Nano to write a small program. Include stdio.h, and we're going to say int main little C program while forever. Just don't do anything. And we're going to save it, and then we're going to compile it. Yep, that's it. So we've got a program right here. So what I want to do next is I have this resource monitor, and let's open that up. Yep, it's right here. And you can see this has 4 cores running, and they're not at 100%. So what I have to do here is I'm going to have to run 4 versions of this. So I'm just going to go, let's rename a.out to loop. I could have used the -o option, but so I'm going to go loop. That's 1. Oh, yep. I got to go. Sorry, I got it. Local path loop. That's 1. Loop. That's 2. Loop. That's 3. Loop. That's 4. All right, and I think this is going to hit every one of these cores up to where they're now 100. Oops. Resources. They're all now 100%. That's what I wanted. But let's actually double it up so that each have to 1, 2, 3, 4. Now they're each having to run 2 of these at least, just to give it a little bit something to deal with. Obviously that is hardly hitting, yeah, I mean, it's really fast. Let's do 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now they're running 3. Still no impact, but we're gonna have to run something else here. So I want to minimize this for a second. So I do have a Wine on here, and I am able to run an emulator, which I think will take a lot of resources away. So that's what I was going to do. So I have QLate will be able to run. So if I run this, There it goes. And I just got to make sure that I find the ROM, which is just going to be JS-ROM. And you'll see that F2. Oops. Oh, I hit the wrong thing. F2, sorry. Yeah, and you can see that we can make this a little bigger. So this is, there he goes. You can see that it's running really fast. And maybe we should run, can we run 4 of these? I think so. What I'm trying to do is just hit this machine up as much as possible. Emulators tend to be expensive, so run it, F2 it, make it a little bigger, or maybe make this a little smaller so you can see them all. Yeah. All right, you'll see both of them here. Again, so this is running it through Wine itself to get the Windows emulation. So we'll do again. We'll do another one. Just have to set the ROM. Okay, and that's going to go up here. I was trying to run WinUAE on this, and the problem is I think it could run. I mean, there's obviously a Linux version of UAE, but the reason I wanted to run that is because you know it's going to be pretty resource intensive. But so the reason I wanted to run that is just to see how that would fare in terms of running it here multiple times. And let's see. So it's definitely slowing down because you can see that these things aren't going. Oh, look at that. It's still doing a pretty decent job. Interesting. Oh, here it goes. So I think it's just the way it's being tasked in or out. So we're running 12, we're running quite a few processes. So if we do top here, just trying to hit the crap out of this. And you can see, again, I'm not messing with priorities, so they all have, I think, negative. Well, the nice value is 0 right in the middle. If you do negative 21, that's the highest. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just running it oops, all the way. Yeah, so I guess all we get to see is the top ones. But you can see that, running a bunch. This is obviously the emulator, and these are the infinite loops. So it's obviously, I mean, it's Linux. It's a good kernel, and the resources here are being hit, but they're definitely all at 100%. Again, these are multiple cores on a single chip. Now I can decide that let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 5 per core. That's a lot, right? So I think I should have 20 or 24. Oh, 6 per core. Okay. How is this doing now? It's definitely starting to slow down, but that's still doing it though. Wow. So not really, and it takes a while for them to get sort of, I think it's the process scheduler that's doing that. So 24 of these things running, that's 6 per core. And let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. Should now have 40. Yep. Right. How's that going? Uh, so again, these are just empty while loops. The sketcher here is able to really do a really nice job on that, and you can see it's not really impacting it. So yeah, 40 while loops. Not doing too much to this with 4 emulators running. I don't really know what else I can do here. I mean, I could just run 100 of these, I guess, but I just feel like it's just efficiently swapping through these things, and I don't even know how to capture that. If you know a better test, the thing is, I'm trying to create a test that I can also create on the Amiga and the QL, so that's a little bit daunting. But yeah, so it's running 4 emulators. I think emulators take a lot of, I mean, this is still too fast to actually do anything with, right? I can't even use it. So that's still pretty similar to what it was before. I think it did maybe a little bit more than that, but yeah, definitely a good kernel. It's able to handle that. So, yeah, don't know what else I can do here, but 40 tight loops. So, all right, I'm going to now head to the Amiga and see if I can replicate that. All right. Okay, on the Amiga, let's, I don't have a disk drive in here. I think that's why it's giving this message, but let's start with shell. And so CD, WB, or I can just say DH0, it's shorter. It's under expansion. Tools, I like to have a directory hierarchy, Aztec. The first thing I do is I need to run this script, and it's funny, on the Amiga it's execute Aztec. And to run an executable in the background, you use run. On the QL, you run a basic program and you execute an executable. Kind of odd. All right, so what I want to do next is take ed and just write a simple program called loop.c, and that is going to open this up, and we're going to say include stdio.h int main actually, I don't know if you use the int or not. Let's see. And we're going to do this again. So while 1, that's it. Save it, quit it, CC, and yeah, it worked. And so then we're going to go ln loop, so that's the linker, lc, and it worked. So loop.c, this is our program. So yep, that's a simple little infinite while loop. So before you run this, let me shrink that. I always like to start up some stuff that's going to be helpful. Number 1 is going to be all under expansion. Under tools, I have Z shell, which I don't know why I started this, didn't start, but this one will give me sort of, I can set priorities and whatnot, which I'm not going to do here because it screws things up. But I can also sort of see processes better. So I'll put this sort of in the background a little bit. We'll put it right here. And then I really like yep. So lines, which is, again, I don't know why I like running this program, but it's always a good test program. And then, so it's doing its thing, and then maybe Amiga Basic, because it does hit the machine up pretty hard. And let's see if we can't resize this window and make it a little smaller. So I think that's, oops, and that's, all right, and then that's the list window where the listing goes. So yeah, so this kind of already tasks my Amiga, so it's good to see how this is going to handle all right, and we're going to move the, oh yeah, let's see if we can't bring this up front, and maybe put this down here. There we go. All right, so here, I think what we want to do is just write a basic program. Where do we write it? I forget now. This is the listing, but do I type it in here? 10, yep. 10, oops. 10, let I equals 0, 20, let I equal I plus 1, 30, print I, oh, I don't, yeah, it maximum, so 40, go to 20, and then I think here I run it. Yeah, and it just does that. Can I close this up? Yeah, and it'll just run. All right, so there's my program. So I've got a program that just runs just an infinite loop. Let's make that smaller. So this is the thing that's sort of testing the Amiga. And all right, so now I'm going to go back into the shell. And yeah, I don't think I need the whole thing. So what I want to do is just run the loop. So if I do run loop, it's going to run the loop in the background. And yeah, slows it down significantly. It's starting to speed up, but it hasn't even... So it's hitting it up. Now if I go and bring this one out forward, so it's starting to speed up again, but if I bring this one forward, and let's do this. The line one has completely stopped. And the interface is kind of slow too. Oh, let's bring this, put this in the back. Let's close this. And this and that. All right, so I did see it move. There we go. All right, so this is running. So if I bring this to the foreground, oh, the mouse is slow. Foreground. There we go. So I can run a so show tasks. And it's going to show that it's running, yeah, Workbench, lines, basic, and loop, and they're all the same priority. Again, I did a video on this. This is a real-time system, so you can't change. If you change one of the priorities, then all the other tasks stop running. So you have to be careful about that. I can change priorities in Z Shell, but I'm going to leave them as default priorities. What I wanted to do is... can I shrink this just a little bit? Yeah, bring this up front. I think I shouldn't have clicked that twice. Okay, I did. Perfect. So what happens if I do, let's try this. That's our second one. Okay, now we're, again, if I do status on this, it shows all the things that it has. Status, yeah, 2 loops, but I think this one does a better job. And again, I guess I can bring this one Oh, it's slow, yeah, but it's still managing. That's not bad. Bring this up front, and again, they're all getting equal priorities. I'm guessing that it hasn't crashed, but it's bogged down. But it's still running, yeah. So as you're multitasking on an Amiga, you can see that the lines are also running. If we want, we can, let's just for the, so yeah, it's multitasking, albeit slowly. These two infinite loops are really slowing things down. So, and we can sort of see the impact on they're going to bring to the foreground. Yep, here we go. So if I go run loop again, now it's going to run, yeah. So it's running Z shell, 3 loops, and it is, yeah. Let's just, what happens if I, so that's 3. What if I do 2 more? Run loop. I'd have to probably run, I don't know, a bunch. Let's see how it does with 5. It's, yeah, so those infinite loops are definitely hurting it. Yeah, so this is really, it's really creeping along. And just to show you if I want, yeah, so now it's, okay, so if I, oops, I gotta go. Oh, the mouse is also slow. So this whole interface, I'm moving my mouse and it's not moving. So it's kind of, there it goes. What I want to do is bring this up 4. And what I can do is I can actually, so if I lower the task priorities, so the command is task, it'll actually stop them. So you won't be able to see it, but, oh, come on. And I believe I'm going to have to say the number, so I'm going to give it -1. So they just have to be slightly lower, and I'm basically just going to go -1, -1. And what is the name of it, though? It's not lines. I don't think it's loop. So the problem is you have to give it the name, and I don't know what the name actually is. Don't know if this is going to work. Yeah, it didn't find it because it's called background CLI. So I don't know if you need to then name it background CLI. And it being so slow, it's really hard to manage that. Oops. Yeah, I'm chasing it now, so that's, I'm going to do CLI in quotes, I would imagine, and then back. So, yeah, this is obviously not very usable. I'm going to give up after this particular instance if I can't. If it doesn't find it, because I don't know if the task pride is looking for the name, and so obviously if I can give a lower priority to the background CLI, I can basically kill these processes. So now it's going to bring the line all the way back. And yeah, it is running still everything though, you can see that. So, but it's painful. Oh, am I done? KACB. All right, let's see if I can't. Now that worked. So if I do it again. You can see now it's working better again because I killed them all. So yeah, so you can kind of see how much it slows it down. So I want to show you one more thing, which is how the QL handles that, all right? I'm on my QL. I'm actually not going to stay in the graphical interface, so I'm just going to go back to the command line and start a editor called QED, which is very similar to ED on the Amiga. And here I'm going to just code my program up. So I use the underbar instead of period. That's how the QL does it. But simple program, save to MVV3, call it loop C. So MVV3 has my program, MVV4 has my compiler. And I'm actually going to reboot because that's going to help with memory. For whatever reason, QED does not clean itself up well. Got to hold down the Alt key when I reboot. Otherwise, it goes into the interface. All right, so I'm going to fast forward over this, but I'm going to run the compiler and then the code generator. But it's going to take a while because it has to read I/O from the slow micro drives, which it's emulating. So I'll just fast forward over all that. Yep, so again, I'm going to go MVV3 loop C, and that's going to compile. So again, I'll fast forward over that. All right, code generation is complete. I think it's still writing to the disk, but it should have, MVV3 should have, yeah. So I'm going to reboot again just to make sure that I have all the memory I need. And so again, because it's only 128K versus a megabyte on my Amiga, it's a little dodgy with memory. But so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run my this is sort of my equivalent to Amiga Basic. It's my own little basic interpreter that I wrote. But memory is going to be the issue, so it's going to be very tight. All right, and now what I can do is I can actually do that. 10, oops, let I equal 0, 20, let I equal I plus 1, 30, print I, 40, go to 20. I'm not going to run it right now. So then again, I have MDV3 is where I have my loop, and I'm going to just execute 2 instances of it, and I can actually do this relatively quickly by doing the following. For I equals 1 to 2 exec MDV3, and it's going to run 2 instances of it. There's one. Oh, it ran both of them really quickly. Okay. And so we can see that both of them are running. If I do a mode 4, you'll see that this line is going to blink twice. Yeah, that means there are 2 running. And we can also verify this in ICE by looking at the processes that we have. And generally there's ICE, there's a command shell, that's 2, then you have the basic one, that's 3, and then you have the 2 while loops. Okay, so how are things running at the moment? So if I just run this, you can see that, yeah, it's running. It's doing its thing. But let's also do the baton lines. So exec MDV5 baton exe. Should have enough memory to run it. Yeah, when it does file IO, it halts all the processes. That's sort of an interrupt. Yep, here it goes. And so I think that's about all I can do is run these. And again, I still have my directory stuff. But yeah, so it's all running. And I can even go to ICE. And still, it's going to be dodgy whether I have enough. Let's see. I think I will. Yep. And you can see I have 1K free, 6 jobs running. So 2 while loops, basic interpreter, the baton, that's 4, the command shell, or QDOS, and then ICE. So those are the 4 things. Obviously, it overwrites the screen. But other than that, it actually is much more responsive. And I think that's kind of what you... it will be responsive. That's kind of what you get when you, I think separate the interface from the operating system, right? So I'm just trying to show you that ICE still works as well. It's going to do a directory listing of one of, I don't know which one it's going to do. I just wanted to have one that had a lot of stuff in it. But yeah, so that's kind of an example of QDOS doing yep. So you get the whole thing. And obviously, it overwrites the screens. It doesn't have enough memory to screen buffer it, but that's really just a minor nuisance. Yeah, so that kind of shows you the difference between the QL and Linux, which are very similar in terms of how they manage the resources, because again, the focus isn't as much on the graphical interface. They sort of built the operating system first and then the graphical interface next. So you have much more, obviously the mouse here works really fast. And again, if I can get back out of this, I have pretty decent, feedback while I have those 2 while loops going. Now I could run 5 or more, and I'll show you the last thing here. So the only way I can do that is if I quit this and give myself enough memory. And then I can go for I equals 1, 2, 3 exec MDV 3 loop. And that's going to run 3 more, because quitting the command shell gives me that memory that I didn't otherwise have. running 1, running 2, running 3. And so now, again, I still have, the feedback. I don't have much memory left. It's still reading the disk. There it goes. If I go to ICE, yeah, you can see it's hitting. I don't know if I'll have enough memory to do a process. Oh, I do. All right, so now I'm running 8 jobs, 0K free, but it's still kind of trucking along, so it's pretty cool. So I can run 5 just like I did on the Amiga, yeah, it kind of works. So I just don't have enough memory to run the. I'm trying to get out of this. There it goes. But I can, for instance, go 10. Let I equal 0. 20, let I equal I plus 1, 30, print I, oops, 30, print I, 40, go to 20, and run that, and yeah, so that's running with 5, but I'm just now running the basic that comes with my command shell as opposed to the separate one. So yeah, that's all I got for you today. It was pretty interesting. I think the Amiga actually held up pretty well. I realized that, obviously Linux is going to be Linux, and the QL obviously did a better job with the multitasking part. But I think the one thing to keep in mind is the QL does not have sizable, growable windows where it keeps track of the graphics. Where it's not overriding everything. You saw on the QL, the screen gets really messy. Additionally, this has an entire interface, so you can write programs for the windowing system. Whereas on the QL, you not with ICE, it's really just a front end that lets you launch applications. I think it does go to show the difference between the design philosophies. The QL and Linux kind of designed the operating system and then built a graphical interface after that. Now, obviously, with Linux now, it looks really well integrated. And modern QL does have a pointer environment, which looks a whole lot nicer than ICE. But back then, ICE was really just a shell that was added onto it. And so you can really tell that. Whereas, what the Amiga was trying to do was trying to improve the Mac OS, the Mac operating system, where that was a single tasking operating system, but with really nice graphical interface. And Amiga said, hey, we can make that preemptive multitasking. So I think they did a really good job with that. I know that I show the flaws sometimes in that, but I think, the overall package is really well done. That's all I got for you today. What I'm going to do is continue with this. I think the next thing I want to sort of attack is how memory management works compared to the Linux and the QL again. So that'll be another video. All right. But that's all I got for you today. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon.